Hi, everyone, and welcome to this episode of the RavenCast. My name is Adam Erickson, and I'm here with my dear friend, Suzanne Ross. Hi, Suzanne. How are you?
I'm great, Adam. Good to be here.
It's good for you to be here, too. Yes, I agree. You may have heard that this week there was an election. Did you hear about that?
I heard it in passing. Yeah,
Yeah, in passing. Yeah. Well, it was kind of a big deal.
I
And
guess it was. Yeah,
well, there were some people, the media often hypes things, and they were saying this is the most important election of your life. Some of them. And so it seems like every election is like the most important election of my life these days. And maybe that's true. I don't know. But it's interesting that each side of the divide has claimed victory.
yeah, absolutely. Well, that's their job is to
That's their
spin it. It's you spin it because the most important thing, of course, is winning, not the issues, not what's best for the country, not what's best for your community, but winning. And so they have to spin it to show they're winners. And President Trump is really good at that. I mean,
Oh,
I just love how his answer to any criticism is, well, I won, didn't I?
hmm
Well, on whatever the issue is, I won. And that is apparently the supreme value right now in our culture is winning.
yeah, it's winning. It's being right,
Hmm.
and it's hard to find common ground when you're doing that. And yeah, so one of the issues that I wanted to bring you on to talk about was religion and politics, because I preached a sermon on Sunday called uh, "The Gospel, Election Day, and the Risk of Love." And there are some people who say that politics and religion shouldn't go together, and there are other people who say politics and religion should go together. And there are people on the left and people on the right who are using religion as a way to what I don't know try to win, I guess. In all
Yeah.
of this.
Yeah,
Um,
basically. Yeah.
and so I one of the things that I struggle with is how to what is the role of religion, if
Hmm.
anything, in politics?
Hmm.
There are some people who say Jerry Falwell Jr. just came out with I don't think he just came out with a quote, but there's this quote that's been going around on Facebook, and I'll read it in its entirety. He says, "I think Jesus made it clear that you use your common sense and your God-given brain to decide who will be the best political leader. I don't look to the teachings of Jesus for what my political beliefs should be. I don't think he wanted us to. We need somebody tough. We need somebody who has the right position on the issues. He's not only done Trump has not only done everything he said he would do, but he's done more. I think he's going to end up being our greatest president since George Washington." You're kind of speechless, aren't you?
I am a little bit because Jerry Falwell Jr. is a Christian, right?
Yeah, he's one of the main mouthpieces in evangelical Christianity. So he's big time.
It's mind blowing to me that a Christian would say that you don't look to Jesus for guidance and that Jesus wasn't tough. I'm just going to say the toughest thing I have ever seen anyone do is get crucified for me.
You know, th-
And I think that takes some toughness. I'm just
yeah,
saying.
yeah.
Not that that should be the standard by which one is judged, but it's just interesting that convoluted way of thinking, which comes back to what we've talked about, that unless you can beat, and these are important violence metaphors, unless you can beat your opponent and defeat them, you're you're a loser, you're soft. I don't know.
You're a beta male, and
Uh,
Jesus was a beta male. He wasn't an alpha male. Why? Because Jesus lost.
That's right.
So our Lord and Savior, from the very beginning, has been seen as weak, and this is one of the arguments of early against early Christianity was that
Yeah, yeah,
Jesus was a failed Messiah. And so,
right.
why would you want to follow a failed Messiah? So,
Exactly.
um,
It,
Melvin, we've got some friends on. Melvin is
oh,
on.
great.
Melvin Bray and Amira Stanley are on. So thank you for being here,
Oh,
friends. We're
great.
gonna. We've got some other viewers too. Melvin says you just need a little toughness. That's it. So,
That you just got to be tough. And you do. I mean,
yep.
you and I have been talking about that a lot is when you um, proclaim the gospel, you will meet opposition. It's inevitable. And if you're not, in that sense, strong enough to handle that opposition, if you're insecure or personally unable to handle criticism, yeah, you will wither under it.
And I want to point out, Melvin just shared this really great article on his Facebook page that was like, "We're not here to find common ground." Like the
Yeah.
gospel does not call us to common ground. Jesus says that he did not come to bring peace, but the sword. And a lot of people like to quote that to say that Jesus was like saying we should be violent at certain times. But that's in the context. It was Jesus came and his message will divide families. Like,
Right.
right? So, and Jesus also says, hey, if people aren't going to take the message, shake the dust off of your feet and move on. Like,
Right.
this isn't like peace for peace sake. This is, you're going to bring the message of the gospel into the world. And what is the message of the gospel? Like, I think one of the reasons that people do not want to say to bring Jesus into politics in particular
Mm-hmm.
is because Jesus says always points us towards those who are on the margins, towards the least, what he calls
Mm-hmm.
what is called the least and the last. You gotta if you follow Jesus, you're going to be taking care of the widows, the orphans, the poor. Jesus' whole mission statement is, "I came to bring good news to the poor."
Mm-hmm.
He flips the whole social structure upside down. The
Absolutely.
first shall be last, the last shall be first. And you can't get away from this. Jesus talks about the kingdom of God. Jesus is called the Son of David. This
Mm-hmm.
is loaded political language. David is the greatest king in all of Israel. And first century Jews were waiting for a son of David to come and take over. And that's what they call Jesus. Now, Jesus doesn't do it with violence. He does it through healing, through caring for those who are on the margins. That's what the politics of Jesus are all about.
Right. It,
Yeah. Melvin
there,
says, man, Jesus keeps getting in the way of our self-interest.
exact. That's so true. That's why I think that Falwell doesn't turn to Jesus for guidance because Jesus would guide him in a different direction. I'm afraid. And one of the things that's really interesting is this question of the role of religion and politics. And politics, of course, is the discipline, the method of governing ourselves, of managing community, if you will, in its broadest sense of how do we come together as a community and be, governed.
How do we live with one another? That's what
Exactly. There
politics
you
is
go.
all
How
about.
do we live with one another? And religion, of course, when you look at it through the lens of mimetic theory, we see that religion has to be carefully defined when you're talking about religion and politics, religion and the art of living together, because there's really two ways of thinking about religion, or religion gives us access to different methodologies of living together. So the what Jesus was turning on its head was the way of forming community through scapegoating, through violence, through victimization, through power over, dominance. And when Jesus is proclaimed as a new Messiah, the new heir to the king, the line of David, it's a proposal for a whole different kind of leadership and a whole different kind of way of forming community, which is not by victimizing, but by recognizing the ways in which we are victimizers. It's a confessional position, right? So that we come to one another in awareness that we easily create victims. And what we should be doing as a community is looking for how to broaden the boundaries of the community so that we can bring more and more former victims, former scapegoats, for ones that we've excluded back in.
Yeah, can I just say, I don't know if I should say this, but I'm just going to say it. Like,
Go for it.
The difficulty of that, Suzanne, is that we have a president who is just really good at pointing the fingers at other people. And I don't like it's not just the president. Like, tends to be what politics is all about. So, but the thing about Trump is that he is more effective in pointing the fingers and accusing other people than the Democrats. The Democrats are just bad at scapegoating.
They're bad at it. They're trying. They're really trying hard to do it. And I think that's the contest that Trump wants to have. We saw it through his campaign, and he wants to set the terms for the competition, and he wants to set the terms that are more favorable to him. He's great at that kind of divisive scapegoating language. The Democrats are trying to do it, but they're not doing it as well. They're not playing a different game, is the only way I know how to put it. And if they can figure out a way to play a different game, I think that then maybe something new might happen. But the election results to me were, kind of disappointing, and it was same old, same old. I mean, nothing new happened. Except that Trump solidified his expertise at what he does, as far as I could see. Yeah.
Nathan Jennings makes an excellent point. The president is only the outward symptom of the majority mindset of the country.
Yeah, I would have to agree with that.
Absolutely. Yeah. Melvin says the Dems don't want to win; they just want to mitigate loss.
Ooh.
Melvin, we're gonna have to have you on.
I know, it's true. It's like because they don't know how to counter. And so this is why you have to turn to religion. Adam.
Yes.
So what would be a healthy role of religion in politics? Because the history of religion and politics in this country is not a pretty one, nor is it pretty globally. When religion seems to get involved, it's always this sort of way in which we hammer and bludgeon one another with it. What would be a healthy role of religion in politics?
It would be to follow Jesus. It would be to focus on, like, if we're going to be Christians about it, if we're going to be Jews about it, if we're going to be Muslims, all share the same message when it comes to how you organize your lives together. All the same political message, which is to care for back in the day, care for the widows, the orphans, those who are poor, and those who are vulnerable. It's like what Melvin said, it's not your self-interest, it's the interest of the common good.
Right. And the interest of the common good.
If you can focus on that's what I think the Abrahamic religions and other religions call us to as well. If you can focus on that, then that leads you in a better direction, I think.
Yeah, it is sort of, it's paradoxical in a way that, we're always apparently vote our self-interest. This is how we're told to, what's in our own best interest. And paradoxically, when you can vote for what is in the interest of the common good, that gets taken care of naturally. Because if you're always out for your own interests, it's adversarial. It's always adversarial. And in that situation, there's always winners and losers. And you could just as easily be a loser as a winner. It's not a guaranteed good outcome for anybody.
Right. Jesus got crucified, as we said earlier. Yeah, it's not,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Judy Smith says, follow Jesus, use the Bible as a guidebook. And
Mhm.
Nathan Jennings says, the politics of Jesus are not partisan, nor do they associate with state sponsored politics either. Absolutely.
That's a
Absolutely.
good point. Yeah,
Excellent. Yep.
excellent
Awesome.
point. Partisanship is not, it's divisive, it's antagonistic. And so how you move beyond that, it is 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 where religion comes into it. And I do think people need to vote values, or how, I don't even know what's the right language to use,
Yeah,
really.
that's fine. I think also what is happening in our culture is that we are defining ourselves as political animals
Mm,
and not as humans that are more than just
mhm.
politics. And so, what you end up defining one another as is Democrat or Republican. You don't define someone as, oh, this is somebody who has a family and who has a lot of the same problems that I do. This person is just an enemy to be defeated.
Right.
And so if we can start recognizing our humanity more than just our political positions, I think that
Mhm.
would help a lot to do that. Melvin says to step broader than Christianity, they all affirm human dignity in everyone. Absolutely, like Judaism, Islam, Hinduism. That's you get all of this affirm the human dignity of everyone. You find it in atheism too. So
Right.
I think that that might be the most important part that religion has to offer us. I mean, Jesus takes it to the extreme of love your enemies. Doesn't mean like cower in front of them and
No.
let injustice go by, but it means struggle for injustice, but also remember that our struggle is not with flesh and blood, but with the powers and principalities.
Hmm. Yeah, that's why I think the Reverend Barber's Poor People's Campaign is a wonderful example of how you can bring people together as people to focus on what would benefit everybody, and bringing in the marginalized, giving voice to people who have been, silenced in our culture, and becoming aware of that. And I think that people respond to that is a very joyful, uplifting community to be part of,
Yeah,
right? When
it's
you look at these partisan things, everybody's angry and anxious and nervous and depressed, because it's like, if we don't win, what's going to happen? And it's everyone. And when you follow the Poor People's Campaign or get involved with anyone who's working for the good of the community, there's a joy there. There's a relaxed feeling. There's a confidence that I just think, that people want to participate in.
mhm. Yep. We've got a couple of comments, and then I think we need to conclude. Judy Smith says, "Be kind to each other, no matter what the differences are." That's good. Good. Lindsay says, I think we need to understand how religion can be used to unite over and against to the exclusion of others, and make sure the way we practice our faith draws on following universal unconditional love. It's the
Mm-hmm.
same with politics. We can use our political terms to unite over and against the other, or we can have goals that recognize the dignity of everyone in our community, nation, world. I think that's the starting
Yeah.
place. And obviously we're going to have disagreements of how we best love our neighbor as we love ourselves. But if we start with human dignity, I have of all people, then we can move through those policy disagreements in a better way, a more gracious way,
Yeah.
maybe. So yeah,
Yeah, I think that's the bottom line, of course, with your sermon, and that, I think is a good guideline, is that if your um, actions and your attitudes are not leading to love, to the dignity of the other, then your theology um, is idolatrous. Is the best way I can say it, because when God is present, love is present. And if we're blocking that love, what we're tending to do is putting our own needs and desires as the ultimate good, and that's idolatrous. And so, so love God, and that's a good metric for analyzing your approach. If you're creating anger and hatred and division by your approach, then, rethink it.
Yes. I'll just end with this. The call to Abraham was a call in Genesis 12 to be a blessing to all the families of the earth. That's it. In Islam, it's said that God created us different, not that we might hate one another, but that we might know one another.
Yeah.
So that's good stuff. So that I like bringing in religion in that sense of it. Obviously, as Lindsay says, great, excellent point. Religion can bind us against one another.
Yeah.
So it's important to bring that up. So thank you for that, Lindsay. And thank you for everybody for watching and for your comments and helping in this conversation. This is a conversation that could be had a lot, religion and politics. So
absolutely,
be careful at the Thanksgiving table if you bring it up there in a couple weeks. So,
that's for sure.
Awesome. Well, stay tuned at the Raven Foundation Facebook page for upcoming live chats. And until then, peace be with you.